Hello, this is my first long-form video with a voiceover, so I apologize if it isn't of the greatest quality or if the editing isn't my best. Just bear with me. Anywho, by request, this is an OC lore video because what is an OC without gut-wrenching lore? I'll be providing mostly backstory descriptions, and if necessary, I may offer more context related to the actual storyline as well as how it all connects, if that makes sense. So I also want to include a trigger warning as some of the topics in the backstories are violent. Also, on a side note, I want to appreciate all of the support I've been receiving. I never in my wildest dreams could have imagined reaching this amount of support. I deeply thank all of you from the bottom of my heart. So, intro yap over and on to the rest of the video. I've decided I'll sort of be covering two characters at a time, or at least just these two because they make a lot of appearances together and sort of just go hand in hand. Also, note that this story takes place in 2024 and the current year is 2025. So the first character is Cassian Anders, and she's the 12-year-old main character, per se. She lives in a small, more rural, suburban town near a lake. When she was younger, before the events of the story, her mother and father divorced, leaving Cassian and her two sisters with just their mother. Cassie, the name she prefers, usually felt like the odd one out regarding her family. Her younger sister and older sister both had hobbies, and their mother supported them greatly. Cassie didn't have that many hobbies, as she never wanted to put too much effort into one thing, but she still felt left out. She was quick to dismiss things that she wasn't interested in, even if they were important, school, grades, etc. Because of this, she didn't have many friends at school, and she still never quite knew why. But Cassie's behavior and grades became worse at school, and her mother no longer wanted to put up with it. Starting a few summers before the main storyline, her mother began to send her to her grandparents' house until the school year started again. This sort of is where the story picks up. This may sound weird, suddenly becoming so crazy, but during her trip to her grandparents' house while on the bus train thing, Cassie is transported to another dimension completely by accident. So, small background because it's needed for context, but basically, this is really weird without details, but the dimension she's transported to was unstable, for lack of a better phrase. Every once in a while, people are sucked into it with no way out. There is an entire civilization inside of it, really, with hundreds of thousands of people from all across the multiverse. So, due to overpopulation and a strange prophecy, a law was put into place by the dictator saying that any newcomers after a certain year, Paraly, were to be killed. Cassian, of course, is a Paraly once entering this dimension. So this is where Cassian meets Roland. Roland Penn is a girl of Cassie's age, and to jump right into her trauma, her mother died tragically during childbirth, and she has no siblings. So hardly any photographs of her were preserved, and due to Roland's father's job, all was stressful. Until his eventual demise, Roland's father worked protecting any Paraly and attempting to get them home. Roland helped her father with this job, often making friends with the Paraly that they would harbor, basically. So, Roland, being a young child during this time, quickly befriended the first Paraly she met on the job. After merely a few days, the young Paraly girl was found, and Roland had to witness the girl get violently beaten to death inside their house. Her father quickly moved on to the next as he was used to it, while Roland felt, indifferent. I mean, anybody would. You just saw a person get whipped. Yeah. So, on her second job, the Paraly was, insanely similar to the last. As all Paraly came from different dimensions, Roland was excited when she concluded that perhaps the Paraly could be the first one, but from, a different universe. Sorry if that sounds super confusing. Again, I don't want to get, too deep into the actual story, just 'cause, yeah. So, of course, just like the last, Roland witnessed the death. This happened many, many more times, but her father would not give up, and because of this, neither would she. And over, she met her best friend and watched them die, essentially. So eventually, her father was caught, and this is very sad because he was also killed by members of the government military. And Roland, now 12 years old, same age as Cassie, knew that job and had nothing else. She continued helping the Paraly on her own, trying to find ways to, get them back to their home universe. And this was when she met Cassian. Their dynamic is really, kind of sad, honestly, because Cassie was, extremely excited about what she thought was a friendship with Roland, because no matter what, Roland would not leave her side. And Roland didn't want to be seen as Cassie's friend, honestly, because of how many times she'd witnessed a friend die, and at this point, she was just assuming that maybe if she didn't become friends with them, that, they wouldn't die. So, yeah, it's doomed, essentially. Anywho, on an even less happy note, I'll now be moving on to the next three characters, Bella, Kevin, and Quentin. I have to do these, three semi-together, just like Roland and Cassie, because they're all sort of connected. So I guess I'll start with Kevin because he's introduced earlier in the story. So turns out Kevin's mother was a paralyte. In their home universe, Kevin's mother and father lived happily. She was pregnant with Kevin when she was transported to the other dimension. She was not technically a paralyte when she arrived because it was the year before the year that the law was announced and whatnot, making her and her son Kevin legal citizens. Anywho, when Kevin was born, his mother was immensely worried for his health. And another tangent about the background. In the dimension, there are 4 countries or quadrants divided from one big, mother country. So there's the city, suburbs, and country quadrant, all on the same land, but divided from borders. And the Badlands quadrant is a large island continent not far from the other quadrants, but widely known to be abandoned, because it's just, uninhabitable and whatnot. So, because she was worried for his health and there were rumors of medicine in the Badlands, Kevin's mother was determined to retrieve them for her son. She took Kevin and left him in an orphanage, then left for the Badlands. Because she never returned, you can, assume what happened to her. So, Kevin spends a good portion of his life bouncing from foster home to orphanage, never finding the just right home. First his mother, and when he becomes 11 years old, another problem sprouts. See, I'm gonna be, kind of honest. I haven't worked out some of the specifics of his lore, so, I'm just gonna wing it. But, so, Kevin is just about as settled as one could be in an orphanage. For once, he's lasted in a place more than a month, and it had been, 2 months, actually, so yay, celebration. He was attending a good school as his orphanage allowed him to, and he'd made a best friend, a boy named Peter. Peter was well off, extremely well off, actually. So he had 2 parents and a whole fortune to his name. Surprisingly, he had no other friends besides Kevin. The 2 were inseparable despite being bullied for hanging out with the other. Both of them being scrawny, pre-puberty little kids, they were weak and easy to target, and that was exactly what happened. On a walk home from school, Peter's teasing about Kevin for something stupid, and they get into a small argument in an alley. While distracted, a much older boy from their school approaches them. The older boy is seemingly middle class, much less money than Peter, and probably jealous. So just for the fun of it, he throws a punch at Peter and nearly knocks him out. So the 2 fight it out while weak, skinny Kevin stands by, just watching because he doesn't know what to do. And when he sees the blood on his friend's face, he freaks out and kind of just spirals out of his control, defense mode basically. So he grabs a brick or something like that, whatever is in an alley, bro, I don't know, and then proceeds to bash the older boy's face in with it. While the older boy was still alive and attempting to fight back, he hit Kevin with the brick as well, which gave him his edgy scar. So though it was self-defense and the cops let them off the hook after discussion, it was enough for Peter's parents to want nothing to do with Kevin. Kevin, still in shock from what he'd done, knew that Peter would push back against his parents, or at least explain that it had to be done. But sadly, that never happened. Peter took the side of his parents, leaving Kevin, who saw himself as a murderer, all alone. From then on, Kevin's personality, hardened. Nobody quite knew why, especially not Roland, when they met by accident at a town event, before the storyline. So for years following the incident, Kevin was in and out of juvenile jail and was even presumed to commit multiple more murders to fill the hole of doubt inside of him. Was he a murderer for defending himself? He wanted to fill the role he had to live up to, but it was never confirmed. Which is, basically my way of saying, I have no idea. Kevin had, a collection of weapons on him, ranging from guns to knives, all the things, which is kind of, how he's tied in. But, I'm not going to go into that. But, anywho, so he was, kind of a rugged guy, but he had an interest for fencing, because, while everything in his life was changing, that, stuck with him. That's also incorporated with how he's, added into the story. So, he's formally introduced into the story when Roland tells Cassian that they may need, weapons for, a thing, and that she, knows the guy or whatever. And, he's definitely not enthusiastic about it, and he pushes them away numerous times. But it's, I don't know, they're, friends, but at the same time, they, act like siblings. I kind of like that, yeah. So, up next, we have Bella and Quentin, or Quinn, and weirdly enough, they have zero, actual backstory. Their childhood is never explained in great detail, so I'm just gonna, skip forward to the more important information. So their titles or code names are Kokursi and Korakai. There's gonna be more explanation to how I get to that later, but they're essentially the right-hand men of Headmaster, working as top, soldier assassins, ranked high above the rest of the Empire and Army. So Bella is the same age as Kevin, being 17, while Quentin or Quinn is roughly 11 years old. So from a young age, they were with Headmaster, surrounded by the men in their army. they experience like total isolation for maybe the first 9 years of their life, like just by themselves in the palace, only with each other and the headmaster, nobody else. So they learned how to use like all kinds of weapons before even the age of 8, becoming some of the deadliest, most refined killers known to man. And like, I'm gonna be for real, like the environment of this dimension they're living in is like not healthy at all. Like, the military isn't stable, like none of the training is good, like it's just like a really bad place to live in. So basically the entire universe is just like completely corrupted. And so of course the military is gonna be like a little roughed up and whatnot. And so, like, eventually more plot stuff happens, and the headmaster who's, like, catching wind of Roland's little job is just like, those idiots are being suspicious in this thing that happened earlier in the plot. You're gonna have to go, like, check on them. So Bella and Quinn are sent undercover as, like, paralyzed to go spy on them, because they think that Roland would, like, help them, of course, if they're paralyzed. Bella, almost like Kevin, has a very hardened personality and is hard to get to know. So she finds basically any form of natural humanity pathetic, laughing, smiling, even talking. So, like, I guess just more intense than Kevin. Kevin isn't, like, aura farming all the time, so that's how he's different from Bella. And honestly, like, I've noticed that Bella and Kevin are just, like, the most, like, popular so far, I guess. Like, I still kind of have, like, a small following, so I don't know if I can consider them, like, popular. But, like, a lot of people have been saying that they're, like, the favorites. So, like, Bella and Quinn, the sisters, they both made an appearance in this video. I'll put an image up. So, like, there's a lot of imagery, like, in this one. I hope there is, at least, because it's, like, Bella kind of going crazy, because she has to decide between, like, does she want freedom, because, like, she has the opportunity to run away from Headmaster in the palace, or does she just, like, want to stay with her sister, go back to the palace, basically just go back to being tortured and whatnot, which is, like, a big no-no, because it's easier to just stay in one place, right, you know, to not have to move forward. But at the end of the day, she did end up staying with Kevin and the others, which sort of led to their death, if I'm gonna be honest. And like, now that I'm thinking about it, Kevin and Bella are sort of like the only characters that I draw as their canon age. Like, in the first story, at least, they're both 17. Cassie, Roland, Keith, Bilbo, all of them are like 12 to 13. But, like, I draw all of them except for Kevin and Bella older. Like, usually just in, like, future AUs, if you know what I mean. I don't know. I'll have to go into, like, Keith and Bilbo's lore after this. So, I really wanted to, like, delve into the story details here, so I had to refrain. But, so, like, before I start yapping, I'll just get onto their summary. Essentially, I feel like they aren't as important in some areas of the first book, but in the second book, they're, like, much more significant. So their names are Bilbo and Keith, and, like, Bilbo, he has, like, no content made about him. I'm sorry, but he's totally in the back of my brain. I draw Keith, like, every day, though, so it's, like, I don't know. They're totally different. So we're just gonna go on to these two. They should be the last two, but, you know, you never know. There might be a surprise. Probably not, because I'm predictable, but yeah. I'm starting with Keith because he's, like, so much cooler, to put it nicely. But, so, in his home universe, it was, like, Taisho era Japan. He was around 3 years old, with a 1-year-old younger brother, a newborn baby brother, and an 8-year-old sister named Reina, who actually, like, makes more appearances than you might think. So, he and his whole family are on a train to visit his, like, other family when it experiences some, like, technical difficulties and just, explodes. Yeah, that's just to show you how uncreative I am. Corrupt nature! The corrupt nature joke is probably so old by the time this video is going up, because I, like, kinda don't know how to make videos, and this has been boiling in my brain for, like, 3 weeks, and y'all have all been waiting. So, apologies for that. Anyways, so, only Keith and his sister Reina were saved from the exploding train, and they're both delivered to 2 different hospitals across Japan, only Reina knowing what happened, because, like, she's older. Keith was too young to understand anything. So, like, sometime over the course of the next 3 years, they're both, like, teleported, if that's the right word, to, like, the other dimension. I don't know the specifics, because, again, I haven't gone that much into his lore either, but that's, like, essentially what happens. So, meanwhile, like, at the same time, because at the same age, in another dimension, Bobo is, like, not quite thriving. He lives during, like, World War II in Louisiana with his older brother and younger brother. His mother had died during childbirth of the younger brother, unfortunately, and his father later, offed himself, sadly. Because of this, Bill, his older brother Richard, and their younger brother Rory were taken into the custody of their aunt and uncle, and they lived on a farm, with cousin and uncle, where they were, almost treated sort of slaves. So, by the way, during this, Bilbo is, the same age as Keith, and Richie's the same age as Reyna, just for, comparison. So, more problems begin to stir as Bilbo grows older. Their cousin, who they lived with, attempted to burn Bilbo alive by locking him in a shed and setting it on fire. He survived, luckily, though he was left with both mental and physical scars. I mean, anybody would be. But more time passed before Richie was tired of the abuse. He took Bilbo, then locked everybody else in the house and, burned it to the ground. So, yeah, what a fun guy. Richie, still a young, little kid at the time, had, forgotten baby Rory and, burnt him to a crisp as well. And after that, not much time passed before, stuff happened and they ended up in the other dimension. There, in the country quadrant where they ended up, Bilbo and Richie lived together, just, by themselves. They were, immensely poor and homeless, so Richie made money as a young hitman and gang member. As he climbed, higher in the ranks, his relationship with his brother faltered. Richie, now suffering alcohol and, drug abuse, he was often not home, and due to occasional homelessness, Bilbo had to stay in the care of various unsafe friends and, girlfriends of Richie, where, more stuff occurred, which, was not good for Bilbo. So he, eventually ran away, moving to the suburbs quadrant where he met Keith. Keith had been taken in by, a young, unmarried woman, and she became his mother, so to speak, adoptive, I guess. The woman also took in Bilbo, and the two grew up as best friends, even attending school together. Later, of course, they're introduced to the group Roland, Cassie, Kevin, and eventually Bella and Quentin. I really want to just tell the whole story, but, there could never be enough time for that. So, yeah. Also, I just, wanted to give explanation on this before I forget to, record this. So, earlier I had mentioned this, saying that, Bella and Kevin were the only two characters I draw as, their canon ages. So, to explain, with Keith and Bilbo specifically, I find it more fun to draw, their older designs. In the first book or, story, for example, most of them are, decently young, and then the story progresses, so, of course, they get older. And what I meant was just, I like drawing their older designs more. Obviously, I can't draw Bella or Kevin's older designs because, they die. So, that's just what I meant by that. Anyways, I guess that's it. Again, I'm so sorry for the long wait. I'm, not very good at this whole long-form video thing. So, that's essentially it. I mean, I do have a lot more characters, actually, but these characters are sort of, the main focuses. The story is always fluctuating, of course, if anything is changed, hope for an animation or something, an animatic, because I think I would rather die than make another one of these videos. But anyways, thank you for watching, and if you made it this far, have a wonderful day and stuff. Bye.